So tell us about the culture. Tell us what you're doing and how it does work, why it works for you.
I can tell you one of the most successful things, and that is, and why our culture works, and that is because I don't hire people like me. I specifically hire people that make me uncomfortable. And we have a very, and I'll go through them, we have a very high ethnic diversity in our company. It's the United Nations of people. So my business partner is an Australian. If you can't tell from my accent, audience out there, I'm a transplanted Yank. I have an Aboriginal fella who works for me. I have a Dutch fella who works for me. I've got a Kiwi who works for me. My most recent two hires, one is Zimbabwean and the other is Russian. And then I have some people from Venus, Emma, they're women, I think they're called. I'm not sure where they're from, but we keep them around because they keep us from saying nasty, bad words. So it's a very diverse, and then I've got a uni student as well. And not only is that a cultural diversity by intention, it's also an age diversity because I've got people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And when you have a diverse workforce in both age and ethnicity and culture, guess what? You end up being able to attract customers and clients that are diverse as well. So it's a very clever secret weapon. It's not surprising that I happen to have a lot of Russian clients because I got a guy in the office that speaks Russian.
Wow.
And we hear a lot of people talk about, Generation Y, Generation X, all those sorts of things. You've got a fair spread. Do you treat your people differently based on generations, or is it you mentioned a flat structure? Is it then a flat sort of management technique as well?
I guess the short answer is to that is we don't manage. People ask me what my role is, and I said my role is to be the conductor of the band, of the orchestra, and I move my hands around and wave it around, but every one of the people in the company plays a different instrument. I can't play any of their instruments, but I need that full set of skills in the tech space to be able to deliver the services and products that we do. So some guys are really good at databases, somebody else is really good at JavaScript, somebody else is good at API interfaces. But I need all those instruments to be able to make music. And so my job is I can't do their job. If they don't show up on a particular day and somebody says, can you fill in for them, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't manage in any way. I'm just the conductor of the band.
So do you say, you mentioned you don't have a mission statement or a purpose, a vision statement, but you must have some sort of, guiding principle or some objective that even a band has a music sheet and they all know what song they're playing. How do you get, all your guys on the same page?
We're getting into the analogies today. I like
it. Yeah. Well, now that I've brought up the damn band, now you got me. Well, that's a great question, Shane. It's fun because our job is to just drive traffic to people's websites. And we've tried doing Facebook and LinkedIn and a lot of other things, and it hasn't been very successful for us. We're just Google. We do Google. We do it really, really well. I can call Google on the telephone, and it gets answered by live human beings. And I told you that it was training that was important to us, and Google, we used to come and train our people, and that was true 6 years ago. Now Google comes up to see what it is that we're doing because they're learning from us. And in fact, the last product we developed, they brought in-house and now have released to the world. So we're getting a little bit gun-shy about showing them everything we do. They're good at borrowing your intellectual property. So we're Google people, and that's what we do. We understand their algorithm. We understand how it works. We've diversified a little bit into SEO now that it's gone white hat because the black hat all went away after Penguin and Panda, so we're able to now compete, and we don't have to worry about the shonky players out there. But we then respond to the marketplace. So as things change, like Google changes their AdWords interface all the time. Now it's focusing on mobile devices and tablets and
So all of your team, they all, the sheet music, if you like to keep the analogy going for Emma, is just in mastering Google. So everybody's, working in their own capacity to understand how to master that traffic, master Google, because that's what serves your customer base.
Well, yes, and again, that's where the cultural diversity comes in, and it's very strong, because if I'm trying to sell OTrain, I might come up with certain keywords that I think are important. Somebody who's come from Zimbabwe or Russia might come up with different words, and so that really. And then when we write ads, because we're always writing new ads to compete with ourselves, I might focus on training as a way to develop your employees. Somebody else may talk about training as a way to future-proof them. So they might think about it differently and write a better ad. I've got no ego about that. We run my ad against your ad, and we see which one performs better. We celebrate everyone.
No ego. A couple of questions that have come through, Monty. First of all, as diverse as your workforce is, do they all work in the same space, as in physically?
7 of them work from my office here in Albion, and 3 of them work remotely. 2 of them are in Melbourne, and 1 of them is out at a university, and it was not uncommon when he was younger for my Aboriginal friend to go walkabouts and disappear to Korea or Japan for months at a time. But, I mean, as long as they got a laptop and internet access, we can all work, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Second question is, and I'll read this because it's a bit long. So it sounds like you've removed a lot of the competitive drivers that are seen in a typical workplace. Is there a lot of collaboration that happens with the team, or do you manage everyone individually as to their needs?
That's an interesting question, and let me add a few data points you need to know. I pay everybody in my team the same wage. Everybody. There is no variation. The only people that have a different wage structure are the 2 co-owners. And the difference between the co-owners and my staff is not that great.
Yeah.
So everybody gets the same amount of money, and then based on our performance, we get incentives from Google and other suppliers, and again, that's distributed equally among everybody.
Okay.
So nobody's treated differently. Well, they're all treated differently because they're all different people. So some people need to. If they've got young families, they need to spend more time at home or have time off during school holidays. We accommodate that. Obviously, with a Zimbabwean and a Russian and a Kiwi, they have families in those countries, so they need to travel internationally, and so they go away for a while, and we need to accommodate that. And I'm a Yank, so I go back to America. So who's going to look after the thing? How do we do that? We accommodate each other individually in that way. But from a management point of view, we just all work. We're all push the noodle in the same direction.
So that's yet another competitive driver that you've taken out of the mix, basically, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I hope that's answered your question. And just a side note from one of the viewers, they're offended by your description of the female jobs in your workforce. Would you mind expanding more on what they do for you?
How do you know they weren't Russian?
the women, the 2 women, actually the 3 remote people are all brothers and sisters, and they're all in the same family, because I hired one of the women, and she does my customer service, and then she got overworked, so she hired her sister, and then they still got overworked, so the first woman hired her son. I let them run that customer service portion of the company as their own little work unit, and they just do that. And I don't worry.
Again, that's fascinating.
Emma keeps talking every time I try and sneak a cup of coffee.
And because they do interface, since they're so publicly facing, you tend, if somebody gets upset about something, you tend to be less likely to swear at them if they're a woman.
Very true, very true. And we know how to use that to our advantage as well.
Monty, I'm interested.
One other thing that's worth mentioning, too, is we survived 2 years ago when there was the flood here in Brisbane, or 2.5 years ago, and that's because I provide all of my people with laptops, mobile phones, internet access at home. I pay for all of that. And I mean, people talk about Google and how great a place it is to work. I think it's actually a very rotten place to work. They work, you know, I'm sure they get 20% to do whatever they want, but that's because they're working 14-hour days.
Yeah.
My people work a 7.5-hour day, 5 days a week, and that's it. No evenings, no weekends, no overtime. That keeps the work balance just where it needs to be.